Hey all, welcome to TNT Homesteading. This is Terry. We're here at the house. It's almost Christmas. We're just a few days until, and we've got several Christmas parties coming up and the like. And every year at Christmas time, I've started making homemade caramels. Since a man I used to work with at my last company, he went to a cooking class and made these awesome caramels, and shared the recipe, and it's just something I've made year after year after year. I don't even know where he got them from, or I would definitely say where this recipe came from, but there's so many caramel recipes out there. Unfortunately, I've been sick, so I haven't been able to get around to making these yet. Doing a lot better, and so I've decided to go ahead and get caramels made. I have enough ingredients for a four batch, so it goes so quick. People just love these caramels. So let me show you what I've got. First of all, I've got two pans that are foiled and buttered and ready for the hot caramel to go into. Over here I've got 4 cups of sugar, 4 cups of sweetened condensed milk, 4 cups of dark corn syrup, and 4 cups of butter. And I just realized the only thing I don't have right this moment out is the vanilla, but I have a little bit of time for that, as it won't go in until after it's all put together. Alright, the first thing that we're going to do is add in our butter, our sugar, and our corn syrup. So I've already got the fire on. I did learn to put the butter in first. One year I put the sugar in first and then had a horrible time getting the butter to melt over that. I had a different recipe I had planned on trying, and since I've been sick and my taste buds are all wackadoo from being sick and cough medicine and all that kind of stuff, I decided not to try the new recipe. I might make it later in the year and see how that goes. All right. Now at this point, it is the bad part about making such a large batch. You just have to let it melt. Once it melts, I'm just going to let it boil for about 4 minutes without touching it, and then I'm going to remove it from the heat and stir in the milk. Once that's done, I'll put it back on the heat, and then I'll bring it up to about 200. The recipe says 238 degrees, but what I tend to do is to try to get it to about at least 240. You want that softball stage. You don't want to get to a hard ball stage on your candy recipe or candy thermometers, but you do want it to get hard enough to set up. And I've made it a couple of times and it's not set up, and that turned out not to be good at all. Anyway, so I'm gonna stir this and we'll come back in just a couple minutes. Alright, I think you can see that there. It's all melted in. The sugar, corn syrup, and butter is completely melted. Let me take this off the heat for a minute. Oh, of course, now I've lost you. There we go. Let me get the sweetened condensed milk in. Normally, I don't mess with putting everything in, like pouring out my sweetened condensed milk. But I also find it to be very helpful to make sure I have the right measurements with a cup of everything going in. You know, the cans weren't the same. A can wasn't a cup and all that kind of stuff. So measuring it does help. All right, now let's stir that in. Oops. All right, that is done. Let's get this back on the heat. Bring you back over here so you can see. And then I think I left out a step. Hopefully it won't make a huge difference. I don't think I let it boil for just several minutes. I did not. Anyway, there's nothing I can do about that now. The next step will be, all right, get the candy thermometer in there and then get this just stirring. Don't want it to burn, and so we will just stir this until it reaches 238 degrees, which on a candy thermometer will actually say, there it is, right there, between the 100 and 125 on the yellow side. There's a little line that says softball. I want it between that line, and then there's a line above 250 degrees that says hardball. I really want it to get, you know, around that 240 area. And so I'll just sit here and stir this. I think I had a Facebook memory the other day where it took me about 29 minutes to do. And so we are going to just do that, and I'll join back with you once we've gotten to that stage. Alright, so here we are. We're at a little over 225 degrees. We're getting near that softball stage. And I did want to show you just how hot and bubbly this sugar is, and it will definitely burn you. So just be careful as you're making this. One of the things I also wanted to bring up is if you do have a problem, you don't quite get it high enough so that the caramel doesn't set up, one thing you can do is scrape it out of the caramel once you're, or out of the foil once you're done, put it back into the pan, and then bring it back up to temperature. Just make sure you get above that 238 degrees temperature. Again, I try to shoot for at least 240 before putting it back into the foil pan that's been greased with some butter. My only concern is I always sprinkle the top with salt, and I was afraid, because that salt is just a really nice crunch as you're eating this beautifully soft caramel, and I was concerned the caramel was going to be too salty the one time I had to do that, and it did not make a difference at all. So that was good to know. We're sitting at maybe 230. Looks like about 230 degrees. So I'll join back here in just a couple of minutes. All right, we are slightly over 238 degrees. Outside of that softball, just on the top side of the softball stage. One thing I thought of once I reached that, well, almost reached the 238 point, was how easy it would be to just stop. You're like, oh, that's close enough. Don't stop. Now, it's what happened to me once before. And it won't set up. Then you'll have runny caramels. Actually, I'm going to give it another second. I think I pulled the thermometer out of the caramel while I was doing the last minute stirring. You want to make sure you get that temperature where it wants to be. Otherwise, it just, it'd make a great caramel sauce. Actually, at that temperature, it'd be a little too thick for caramel sauce. This would make a great caramel sauce. You just want to stop it sooner than where you're trying to set things up. All right, so take the caramel off the heat here. I'm going to give it just a second here. I'm going to pour in the vanilla. Vanilla is done at the very end so you don't evaporate it out. Oh, and it smells so good. Stir this in really well. And then we'll get ready to take this over here to the pans to pour them in. We don't need the whisk because we will not be scraping the bowl, at least not when we're pouring it into our containers here. We're going to give that a try and see how that works. I'm going to put about half in one and half in the other. It's so good. All right. And that is that. In a few more minutes, I will sprinkle on some kosher salt. I don't want to put it on too fast because the salt will melt, and you want to have that crunchy salt layer as you eat it. All right, so here in just a few minutes, I'll put the salt on it, and then I will just let it cool. Maybe later today, I'll be able to take them out and start cutting them. I've used a pizza cutter, is what I found works best. And I've bought some wax caramel wrappers for wrapping them. All right, had this setting for just a little bit now, and I am going to go ahead and sprinkle some salt on top. Now, if I was using something like sea salt, I probably would not go ahead and put the salt on yet. I think it's still a little too hot for that. But for the kosher salt, it's big enough grains that that's not going to be an issue, I don't believe. And there you go. Now at this point, all we have to do is just let them cool. I would say the hard part's done, but I found wrapping to be harder. Well, I don't know about harder, but it's just as hard. One thing though, those are wonderful things. One thing, it does say not to scrape this, but hold on. I will want to scrape this out here in a little bit and put it on a plate. It's great for putting on in your coffee or just eating it, just a chunk of it. It works out really, really good. But because you can have burnt pieces, you don't want to scrape it into your caramel. And that's why it doesn't want you to scrape the pan into your cooling pans. All right, so the caramels had a chance to set up. It looks really good. Wait, there. Now it looks really good. This is just one of the two pans. Of course, there was the caramel I took out of the pan and scraped out that we'll use for coffees and the like. And now all we need to do is take this out, get it cut, and start wrapping. All right. Because you had this in foil, it sure makes taking it out a whole lot easier. Now hopefully the butter will do its job. And we can get this off. There we go. Yeah. There we go. Now one of the things I do like to do, let's see, can you see that great? You can. One of the things I do like to do is take a butter knife, and I know this is just butter, but it doesn't look great. So a lot of times I will go through here and just scrape off that butter that melted when we added that hot caramel to the buttered foil. All right. So there you go. Next up is, like I said before, I take a pizza cutter and then I just score it. I'm after about 2-inch slices. This is not a single cut through, it's a couple of passes each way. All right, now that that's done, we turn it and go again and just finish it up. Again, this is not, making caramel is delicious and it's pretty cheap, but it's very time consuming. So, yeah, so let's just get to it here. They're about 1-inch pieces, the 9 by 13, which is what I believe my pan was. So next thing I need to do is get my wrapping papers, which I got to remember what I've done with them. Let me find them. All right, so I found my wax paper. It has 4 different colors: green, blue, pink, and a gold. Right now I'm starting with green. And just take a piece, and it's for twisting caramels. So you wrap it around, twist it, add it to the container. Now that it's cut, the caramel isn't that hard to do. It's now just really time consuming because the caramel wants to stick to the pan. It wants to stick to your fingers. And then once you're done and you start unwrapping them, it wants to stick to your ribs. But this is something I get asked about all the time. And people look forward to my caramels every year. And I try to get them out as soon as I possibly can. Sometimes I make more than other times. Like I said, this was a quadruple batch. And this is pretty much it at this point. I actually would have probably preferred to have them cut even smaller. But again, cutting them is a real pain. If I was to ever consider selling caramels, I'd need to find a better way of cutting them, because I just haven't found a good consistent way to get the caramels cut. I don't know if I'll do both containers today. I know I'll do this one because I wanted to get this done. But we may. We'll just sort of have to play it by ear and see how it goes. I'm tired. I've had a lot going on. And I just like to get this first batch done, because I know there'll be people we want to give some caramel to that we may not see again before Christmas. This is a lot of fun. It's very tasty. Come on. And I can guarantee you won't be sorry you make these if you decide to break down and do them. Anyway, I'll stop talking, get off here, and just get to wrapping, and I'll show you when we're all done. Alright, I'm down to my last 6 caramels. But I wanted to go over one thing that happens the longer these set out as you work on them, is though I've cut them, and at first they were separating really well, now they're not. It's warmer in the house. A lot of times I like to cut these first thing in the morning. So I have to take the pizza cutter to them once more. And it's taken me about an hour to get everything set up and wrapped up for this one pan of caramel. It took 2 hours to do both pans, and probably took me at least a half an hour of cooking the caramel and 15 minutes to a half an hour of setup. And that don't count the dishes, which the sink is full. But again, these are wonderful. They make great presents if you love people enough that you can share. And there we go. I think, and had to double check the recipe, but I'm pretty sure it's 5 pounds of caramel as a double batch. I think it's 2.5 pounds for a single batch, and I did 4, so this would be 10 pounds of caramel when I'm all done. But I am done for tonight. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Making caramels is time consuming, but not hard. And people just love them. And I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year. Y'all take care now. Bye.